Okay, so I had a lovely little moment there where I was counting, I got to 39 and then the next number I tried to do was 14, and I had to stop for a moment and try and work out why that wasn't right. So, there you go. I'm not saying you shouldn't trust my advice for anything at all, but, you know, counting up to 20 is hard. I also found stopping at 64 difficult because I did go for a 65th by accident. You know, obviously, what I should have then done was gone all the way to 128 like a sensible person. But no, I'm a rebel, so I didn't do that. So this is day 6. And for day 6, there you go. Day 6, I have a series of questions. A friend of mine on Facebook, and he is a friend on Facebook in that I've never met him. I only know him via Facebook. We got into a discussion on somebody else's thread, and suddenly we're friends on Facebook now, which is fine by me because he posts interesting things. So I'm cool with that. Anyway. So he's given me a series of topics, and I'm not sure I could do an entire video on any of them. I mean, maybe if I were the kind of person that is able to shave in 5 minutes, then sure, I could do that. Yeah. But I'm not. So I'd say should be able to crack through a few of these. So first things, got beard mites. Now, never known beard mites to be a thing. I have had head lice before when I was like 6 or something. I was very young, and it's very obvious when you have those. The thing about what beard mites would presumably be is they're probably like those mites that you get in your eyebrows, which everybody has and nobody's aware they have them. So, yeah, it's probably not worth worrying about, because if you have them, then either you're not going to notice and it's fine, they're just creating an ecosystem on your face, or you are definitely going to notice and it's going to be very obvious. But regardless, keep your beard clean, you know? No need to be disgusting about things. Speaking of which, I tried popping a spot on my face earlier, and as you can see, actually I did one on each side, but you can see this one, I am now suffering the consequences of bleeding face. I mean, obviously, I've been doing lots of bleeding face throughout these videos, but, you know, there we go. I'm an idiot. I just really like popping spots. Can you blame me? Yes. Yes, you can. Right, so next up, we've got ingrown hair follicles. So, I wasn't sure with this one whether that just meant ingrown hairs, or if there was a separate thing that is an ingrown hair follicle. Because obviously, an ingrown hair, my understanding of it anyway, is a hair which, for whatever reason, gets mushed about a bit too much and ends up just doubling back on itself. Now, I was thinking, well, no, the follicle itself surely can't be ingrown. And then I remembered, I've got this thing going on here. I don't know if you can see it. There's this like dark patch there. And that's actually a couple of hairs that always grow out sideways. And they've been doing this for months. And I keep meaning to get a pin in there and try and just sort of excavate the whole thing, because what I've been doing up till now is just going at it with tweezers when the hair grows long enough to actually poke out. And the weird thing with this one is, unlike with ingrown hair, which ends up being like a spot and ends up sort of getting all pussy and horrible, I say pussy and horrible, just getting filled with like sebum and stuff, just filling out, it doesn't actually do anything other than be a bit dark, which is kind of weird. So Now, as I say, this is something that I've noticed happening this year. So obviously, it's something new. Now, I don't know if it's something that will just naturally happen every now and then, or if there's something I should have done to prevent it happening. There you go. Then, it should be very apparent that I've researched none of these topics. Okay, I did a tiny bit of research on one of these topics, but only a tiny bit. If you suggest topics to me, it's going to be up to me whether I actually put any effort into researching them. Possibly because I already know everything about it, or don't need to research that. Possibly because I just can't be bothered to research them, and I think, we can have a bit of a chat about it with what scant knowledge I have. And possibly because it's just more fun to come up with silly suggestions. So I think this is probably that second area. Now there may be certain topics which I'll say, you know what, I'm going to do some proper research on that. Have a proper go at it. I've yet to see one, so there we go. Right, next up. Is chewing your moustache and swallowing unhealthy? So, this may be something that if you've never had a long moustache you might not be aware of. But it can get long enough that it'll naturally just get all up inside your mouth. And there is something somewhat, let's call it pleasurable, I don't know, more cathartic, so you know, just sort of a fidgeting type thing that you do. That you just, and you start. So there was a time when I would use that as my indicator if my moustache was too long. And I thought, hello, it's time to shave it. I mean, there was a time before that when I would shave it by just chewing it. Now, what I can't remember is if I used to actually swallow it. I'd like to believe I didn't, because as you all know from Cats, the animals, not the musical. I mean, it might be the musical. I've not seen the musical. So, yeah. Hair isn't the kind of thing that really digests as such. So, you don't want too much of it inside you. However, if you are doing that, just nibbling the end of it, you're not actually getting particularly long strands of hair in there. So, I don't think it's going to be actually dangerous in any way. You're not going to end up with bezoar or however you pronounce that, clogging you up. That said, still probably not the best idea. Probably about as recommendable as chewing your nails. I would be interested to know if nails digest. That would be interesting to know. Anyway, so there we go. That's where I stand on that. And next up, what do we have? Check that out first. Yeah. And next up, how to distinguish between nasal hairs and moustache hairs, and is there an actually clear divide? Okay, so there's an easy part to this, and there is a grey area, as you might imagine. All good topics should have a grey area. This is no exception. Now, if you're the kind of person that is quite hairy, then you'll be aware that hair grows in weird places that you didn't think about before. As you get older, for instance, you will notice that hair on your ear doesn't actually necessarily come out of the ear and actually grows directly on the lobe, which is weird. and kind of disconcerting when it happens. Similarly, that moment when you first realise the pubic hair does not necessarily grow on the pubic region, and there's a whole load of other places it can end up growing. And similarly, nasal hair is not quite as cut and fast as what's inside the nostril and what's on the lip. So obviously, so you can see here, we've got on the lip, we've got this sort of clear bits here, and even up to here, you can see clearly that's what we're calling moustache, that's what we've defined as moustache. And yeah, inside the nose, you've got, you know, hairs in there that are clearly what they are. However, you see here, you've got this one here, which is straggling by itself, and it's just sitting right there, effectively on the outside of the nostril. And I'm going to have to just declare that just facial hair, in the same way that you have like at the top of the cheek and that kind of thing, and actually on the nose as well, which is separate from what we would call a nose hair. When we're talking about nose hair, we want the stuff that's inside. And crucially with the nose hairs that are inside, is you'll notice they have quite a specific quality about them. Because they're not there for warmth, they're there for filtration. They've got a structure more like an eyelash or something like that. So I think that's going to be your... Oh, hello. That did not wash off. Let's try this again. Yeah. That's going to be your better definition. Is don't look at where it's growing from necessarily. Well, you should be able to get a rough idea, but look at the quality of the hair itself, if plucked or if it falls out. And then that's how you're going to know. And then finally, out of this lot, we've got when does a Mexican moustache actually become mutton chops, and should you care? Now, this is what I did a tiny bit of research on. By a tiny bit of research, I mean I googled Mexican moustache and had a look at the first few images. And my decision here is, first of all, you need a definition not between Mexican moustache and mutton chops, but Mexican moustache and biker moustache. And I think that's going to be your distinction, in that a Mexican moustache should never become mutton chops. There should never be a question of one becoming the other, because a Mexican moustache will stop here, and what drops down should be the ends of the moustache. You should have growth coming from the rest of the moustache and going round. It should be shaped hair entirely. However, a biker moustache, though looking similar from outside, will actually be made up of primarily, there'll be a significant amount of beard in there, or what we're defining as beard. So we've got that with a lot of the old cricketers that we mentioned yesterday, where they had the mutton chop stopping there and going straight into a moustache. That's what you're looking at. So that bit there, and a few of them just had straight biker moustache. If you just allow this part to grow and then keep it generally trim, you're looking at a biker moustache, and that's the kind of thing that can then join into a mutton chop. A Mexican moustache, that should stop here, should go down there, so you should always have this gap here, because obviously once you get down to here, then, you know, that stops being that, and that's something separate entirely. So yeah, that's where I'm going to land on that, is a Mexican moustache cannot become mutton chops, but a biker moustache can. And yeah, there we go. That's vaguely shaved as ever. Not a close shave, but a shave. So, and I'm out of questions. So there we go.